Hey, aloha everyone. Welcome to the eighth and final module in this course. I hope you've enjoyed it and learned some useful information. I've certainly enjoyed watching your Flipgrid videos and reading your discussion forum posts. The Zoom sessions, if you've been able to make it, have been a lot of fun and really enlightening, actually. So let me try to get through this last chapter and learning outcome kind of quickly, because I know it's your last week, you got stuff to do. Basically, the learning outcome is to understand that there's stages in a relationship, really. The staircase model specifically, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So give me a few minutes here. Let me disappear for a second here so you can see everything. And again, you can read all this, but basically, why do we choose the partners we do choose, right? And I guess for when you're younger, I guess the looks really matter. But as you get older, a lot of us have been saying, your appearance doesn't really matter how we look at ourselves, even. So things like appearance similarity, do we complement each other, right? We don't have to be the same. Maybe we're symmetrical in one way. One has a lot of energy certain times, other one doesn't. Someone is very social. So, either way, but you help each other out. And then, of course, reciprocal attraction. So this one of the terms in here I didn't put in the slides, but in terms of immediacy, that's one of the bolded terms. How can you tell when people like you, basically? So what we're saying here is what the book says is basically you're going to like people if they like you, right? In general. So that's one reason why we form relationships, because someone just likes you. And look in the book, there's some really interesting nonverbal cues of how people show that. A few more things: competence. If you're just good at something, right? You could be good at golf. You could be good at math. You could be good at anything, right? Sewing, anything. That makes people attractive, right? You're attracted to people who are competent. Maybe back in the day it was who could chop wood or who could cook something. Nowadays it's computers. Who knows? Disclosure. Just by someone sharing something with you. Maybe it's something personal. Maybe it's something about a job that helped you out. But people who share, self-disclose with you, we talked about, who kind of open up that blind window to you, or that hidden window to you. You form relationships with people who share with you, right? Proximity, this is an interesting one. Physical, we learned about that in the other nonverbal chapter, how close people are to you physically. You will be more likely to have a relationship, obviously, with someone who you're near than someone who you're not near to. Nowadays, with the internet, it's kind of different. That has changed a little bit. And the rewards, this is one people don't like to talk about, but what rewards are there in a relationship? You could think about work in terms of making money, whatever it is, right? You're nice to a friend because they have a boat, whatever it is. Okay. Models of relational dynamics. So this is kind of the staircase model. So get to know this one. You don't need to know all of these stages. They probably make sense to you. Just think of high school pretty much, right? There's initiating, experimenting, and so forth and so on. Experimenting is the one you kind of want to know about here. This is when you start to ask questions, start to feel things out a little bit, see what people are interested in, what or not. The rest kind of makes sense. Actually, they all make sense, but kind of know what experimenting is, right? Like in a job, for example, you've done the initiating, people are there, and you kind of find out, hey, when do you folks take vacation, or do we get a raise around here? You're kind of experimenting there, right? Um, this is kind of easier to look at because you have the staircase here. So this is one of the learning goals for the course. Know that there are some models. We're going to talk about two. Here's one. This is Knapp's staircase model. Okay. Again, you kind of know this. It makes sense. Think back to high school. What happened? You came together. You had to maintain it for a day or two. Kidding, and then you come apart, right? So here's two terms you kind of want to know. Okay, like differentiating and circumscribing. The rest kind of makes sense. You build up into it. Differentiating is when you start to go, you know what, I kind of have my own hobbies and you have your own hobbies too, right? Or I have my own friends and you have your own friends too. And we're right there on this line. And then circumscribing, according to Knapp, the model, is when you start to go, okay, let's make it clear and distinct and separate, right? This is my room. That's your room. This is my bed. That's your bed. These are my group of friends. This is the day I go out. This is my checking account, and so forth and so on, right? And you can look at the rest of the stages here. Things just fall apart till they terminate. So if you look at this model, this is one of the goals of the course, to kind of understand that relationships can go through this model. Interesting. Even the author talks about this. You don't need to read this, but basically what he's saying in the book is that model, which was kind of a standard for many, many years, can limit you, right? Language creates reality. If you believe that all things come to an end, or what goes up must come down, that may influence your relationships, right? If those before you, maybe the last generation, they were married 3 or 4 times, had many divorces, you may think that's normal for marriage. So when you think of a staircase model, you can also be, you don't have to follow that model. Okay, so know the model, but also know you have a choice. So here's another choice. This is the other model we'll talk about. These are from a dialectical perspective. So dialectical just means two sides, right? You have two sides. Think of this as the yin and the yang of relationships. So a lot of you have been in relationships for a long time, decades. The staircase model, you kind of hit the top and then you get to circumscribing, but there's no terminating, right? That kind of just, you're going to be together. And this other model is kind of interesting because it doesn't have that staircase. It talks about you're kind of going back and forth between these tensions, right? The yin and the yang. So connection versus autonomy. When you're first together, you're holding hands all the time, you do everything together. But maybe after a few years or a few decades, you need more autonomy or independence, right? You need more alone time. And that changes, it balances back and forth, and it's needed, right? Openness versus privacy. This also changes. When you first meet each other, it's that blind window. After 20 years, okay, you want to know everything. But privacy, do you check your partner's email? Are you over their shoulder when they receive a text from someone or not, right? So that is still going on 20, 30 years later. This is a hard one, predictability versus novelty. Do you do the same things every way? We talked about conflict rituals, all kinds of rituals. But is it predictable? Or do you do just things that your partner never thought of, random things for meals or whatever it may be? Very quickly, here's some characteristics. You don't need to know this. It's just they're always changing and they're affected by culture. If you grow up in Hawaii or China or the continent, it's gonna matter. It's gonna make a difference in the way when you date folks, marriage, all those things make a big difference, right? Very quickly, here's also a little model. It's a helix, and it kind of talks about it. Maybe it's not a staircase, right? Maybe it's like security disintegration, and it kind of goes back and forth through these stages. It's never a straight line. So this is another way to think about it besides a staircase. Here's one of the terms, relational maintenance. So whether you're at the top of the staircase or you're in the dyads, what do you do to keep that maintenance going? And that's really, if you read the book, it's very interesting that actually communication is the key to maintaining it. And you can look at some things there, positivity, openness. We talked about a lot of this previously, but the key here, relational maintenance, is you need to talk about the relationship, which is meta communication, right? I don't think it's in the slide here, but very quickly, meta communication is talking about the way you talk, right? So maybe you're coming across as having a bad day and you're being rude to your partner. It may help if you say, look, honey, partner, I'm just having a bad day. It has nothing to do with you. I'm just tired. That may help affect the tone, right? And you can also ask people, right? Maybe we don't need to talk in that tone. Maybe we don't need to get angry when we talk, whatever it is, but that's relational maintenance and meta communication. Relational transgressions, you can look at this. This is kind of what hurts the relationship. You folks know what these are: lack of commitment, distance, disrespect, problem, aggression. So kind of pay attention to that last one, right? Anger is aggression. We talked about being assertive or aggressive. If someone's aggressive toward you, that really could be considered a relational transgression that could be talked about, right? Strategies to make it better: express regret, responsibility, restitution, right? Paying back somehow, genuinely repenting, not I'm sorry here, or requesting forgiveness. Those are all just strategies. That's it. Really quick video this week. Go back and read the chapter. I save it for the end because it can get personal. So when you write or speak in this final module, you can totally use examples from friends or whatever the folks are watching nowadays. You do not need to give personal examples for this final module. But please think about relationships and how important it is to communicate within a relationship. That's kind of what a relationship really means, right? It's communicating with someone. Finally, thank you very much for listening to all these long videos. Great job in class. I hope to see you again someday. Thank you very much. Have a good one.